Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us this very lovely Tuesday afternoon, and as it's so nice out, had someone come in right down the hill from Brown University, Scott Huson, a Brown sophomore with the Brown Beekeeping Society. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate your coming down because I know the Brown Beekeeping Society's spring meeting is this Friday, and as we were talking, this past weekend we saw some extensive Super Bowl celebrations at some colleges. Some kids were lighting things on fire. You are tending to bees. So tell us about the Beekeeping Society at Brown and college students' interest and involvement in beekeeping.
So as you said, we're having our spring meeting this weekend. We're super happy to start off the spring semester. Our mission with beekeeping, as well as with keeping bees off campus, is to really spread the word about bees and the problems that are really happening in the world with bees today.
Well, that's why I wanted you to come in, because we hear a lot about sort of the peril that the honeybee is in. I mean, do you think the continued interest, especially in beekeeping and amongst the young generation, is one piece of hopefully keeping that beekeeping puzzle intact and moving forward?
Well, definitely spreading the word and talking about bees is a good step forward in increasing the public image that bees have as a part of our environment. But there's definitely tons more work to do in training people to keep bees or respect their environment, and also changes to industrial regulations for using bees in agricultural practices.
Now, when did you get interested and involved in beekeeping?
So I actually had 2 hives when I lived in Virginia. This was freshman and sophomore year of high school. But since then, I haven't had the chance, and I met a bunch of beekeepers on campus, and I really thought they were cool. And that somehow turned into a social movement to educate people on bees.
Now, you talked about the beekeeping at Brown actually takes place off campus, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, since bees are inherently dangerous animals, although not naturally, it was somewhat of a liability to do them on campus, so we thought doing it on private property was a better idea.
And where exactly are these bees?
They're a little north of campus. We're actually working with the RISD Beekeeping Society to establish a shared hive, since we don't have any funding right now.
So you talk about that collective effort and talking with other students as well. I'm sure it's sharing best practices, how to make sure the hive is healthy. What are the state of the bees? I mean, how many bees are we talking here?
So we're just setting up 1 hive, but RISD has 2 other hives that they have set up in the past years. The 1 hive is a relatively small amount of bees, although it's in the thousands, and that is, there can be several hives in a certain vicinity, but it's not that many bees.
As you said, but close could be, as you said, as many as 1,000.
As many as 1,000, but if you think about the size of campus, or the fact that bees can be anywhere, whether or not it's private property, it's not actually that many.
And so oftentimes we see beekeepers, especially in residential areas, even here in the city, getting on the beekeeping suit. I mean, for the average person who doesn't know what goes into beekeeping, what does it take to tend to this hive? And talk with us about a typical week as you don your beekeeping hat when you're not doing your computer science work.
Okay, well, actually, it's really interesting. Beekeeping is mainly a hobby, and beehives especially, thrive on negligence with beekeepers. So, when you go into a hive, per se, you would actually be interfering with their natural processes. And so a lot of the work that beekeepers do is just checking that there are no parasites, checking that there are no diseases, making sure that the queen has enough space to work, and that the honey stores are sufficient enough for the winter.
Very good. Now, you've got the meeting this Friday, and we talked a little bit about the importance in your goal to bring in speakers on a sort of both local and national level as experts, because if anyone's followed the news, there is concern about the numbers of honeybees at this time and things that might be affecting them overall. And I think a lot of people know or might have an idea about the importance of honeybees. I mean, as the honeybee goes kind of the rest of everything in nature.
Absolutely. Well, actually, in this recent year, we've only seen a decrease. Every year, there's a significant decrease in hives that die over the winter because of the harsh winters in the United States. This year, it was only 30%, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually only 9% higher than last year, and only 2% above the 10-year average. So while we haven't seen a significant decline in the number of bees over the last 10 years, there has been a steady decrease in the last 20.
So talk with us a little bit about environmental factors as you bring in speakers. I think there seems to be a lot of research and a lot of studying going on about environmental factors that are impacting bees. Do you think the community at large is becoming cognizant of it? And do you think we'll see potentially changes again with whether it's a pesticide use or things that could potentially be impacting bees? Is there a cultural shift that's going on or can continue to go on that will enable the bees to be protected and thrive moving forward?
Well, I think that the beekeeping community really is growing, and that the scientific community studying bees because of their importance is definitely very more prominent than it was 20 years ago. But I don't think that there is enough being done to offset the negative impacts of climate change, pesticide use on the total amount of bees in the country and internationally. I think that what will cause a major shift in the beekeeping community, especially in the science community, is when many bees start dying at alarming rates that threaten the industries that use them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the meeting this Friday, and as you said, you want to bring in some folks for future meetings as well. I mean, do you have a list of beekeeping rock stars that if you're
yeah.
If I could get this speaker, I want them here at Brown?
Actually, we are super passionate about the people that do beekeeping. Actually, Michelle Obama is a beekeeper. She did beekeeping at the White House. Morgan Freeman is also a beekeeper. There's so many different celebrities. Tom Brady is a beekeeper.
Tom Brady's a beekeeper.
There's so many important people we would love to have on campus, and I think that would really work to further the image of the importance of bees in the environment. Unfortunately, we're also looking more realistically. We're looking for small scientists mostly. We're looking for social people who really have worked in beekeeping with experience, so that they can give our members an idea of the work that we can do on campus and off campus.
Well, very good. Well, it seems if other colleges around the country are similar to Brown University, the future of bees and beekeeping could be quite bright. So, Scott Huson from Brown University, I appreciate you taking the time to come down. And we're going to go a little more outside Rhode Island in just a moment here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.